最近おじいちゃんいるから違うけど久しぶりにバイブスあげてこうウレソンできるスイカ
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Castaway Anime Podcast. I'm Neon Manta.
And I'm Crunchy Bagels.
And we're wrapping up our coverage of MAPPA's latest piece, Hell's Paradise. And if you want to help turn YouTube into our version of Paradise, go ahead and hit the like button, head on down to the comments, let us know what you think of the show, and finally subscribe to the channel for more episodes of Castaway Anime and other videos. Now grab a drink, kick back, and listen up, because this may take a while.
I need to apologize to you and all the listeners at home in advance real quick, because I might get a little loopy this episode, a little crazy. I might start seeing things, because when I saw the final episode of this here Jigokuraku block of episodes, I had to pour one out for what happened. Next to me when I record, I canonically, have my bottle of pills to make sure I stay sane. When I saw that final episode, man, I just had to pour one out for my boy. And so, currently, I don't have any left. Might be a little. Yeah, poured out my pills for my poor man.
Hey, you don't take the normal pills, and this is exactly what happens. You forget who your wife is.
Yeah, my wife tells me that all the time.
I think this second half there's a lot more stuff happening in it than the first half.
A lot of the surface level elements are very similar. You still got big, spooky, scary monsters, but more plot is happening. We finally got our shonen power system. And
it's just key. It's just key, but slightly more complicated.
What's key from again?
Dragon Ball.
Okay.
Oh, aka Chakra, aka Ryatsu.
We're also at a point in the story where character deaths start mattering. This block of episodes, we only got 2 of them, compared to like a bajillion in the first block. So, we finally got all the nobodies out of the way, and we're just left with, pure. This is the first time I've actually remembered the name of one of the characters who died. That is frankly an accomplishment. I'm
gonna need you to run back what you just said and apologize to all the viewers watching at home for calling Tenza a nobody.
Who the fuck is Tenza?
I can kill yourself. Dude, you don't remember Tenza?
Alright, hold on. I'm looking at the character list. I'll probably remember their design. I would not remember.
Nurugai's monitor?
The who guy's monitor?
Nurugai, the blonde dude? Who studied under Shion?
You're dropping a lot in... Oh, is he the guy who dies in episode 8?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
One of the 2 characters who died, as you said, and you couldn't even remember his name.
I remembered Senta's name, not his.
Hey, he's a better character than Senta.
I mean, debatably, but I don't know, his name just didn't stick with me. Listen, you should be used to this by now. I'm really bad with names.
That's what the notes are for.
Yeah, well, I didn't remember his name in time to write it down for my notes. I also didn't write Senta's down, but I by that point I just had it memorized.
Yeah, well, episode 8 opened with our boy Tenza and Nurugai. The true OTP of Hell's Paradise. They got found by one of the Tensen. I believe it was it the same one that they fight at the end, Jujun or whatever?
I don't remember the Tensen's name, but yes, it is the same one they fight at the end.
Yeah, he finds them, or they find him, I suppose, and they start running their fade. It starts pushing their shit in real bad.
Yeah, and this eventually leads to... I mean, I'm not sure how much depth we want to go into the fight, but the end result is that our good boy Tenza, who's had his name is Tenza, right? Yeah, Tenza. Okay, good. I didn't immediately forget it. But
I
you know,
didn't
this episode is
immediately suffer from the
essentially.
lack of pills.
All right, listen. Like I told you, I'm a bit loopy this episode. All right, my wife tells me that very frequently. But anyway, this is essentially the Tenza episode of let's give him as much backstory as possible, just to make his death that much more painful.
I will say, as great as his backstory is, which we'll get into, and as great as as badass as his final moments are, I do take issue with him getting owned after just the second episode that he's in of the show. I feel like we could have spent a little more time with him.
I mean, yeah, and that is the risk you inherently run with killing off so many characters, you know, because I mean, I wouldn't necessarily
I-
say I'm upset that he died too early, but you know, for any given character you kill off and develop even to a modicum of a degree, it's like, well, you know, there's always going to be things you leave on the chopping block, things that could have been explored, and you know that's just kind of how it works. And you know, when you're killing characters so flagrantly.
Yeah, but it's like we killed off so many early on because they were the nobodies. They were there to look cool and give our the characters who actually will stick around some chances to show off like how cool they are. Like how Gabimaru totally owned that big dude with the giant arsenal and like sewed armor onto his skin. Um, but here we have Tenza and Nurugai who had such great chemistry together, and
That's honestly the biggest crime of him dying. You know, like his backstory is cool and all, but bro, I just want Tenza and Nurugai to have one more conversation.
and now we can't have that. Like, don't get me
No,
wrong, his death was badass, and it's not like I didn't feel anything, but I can't help but wonder, man, I wonder how much harder this would have hit for both like me being attached to Tenza and being invested in his relationship with Nurugai if we gotten like one or two more episodes of them exploring the island.
You know,
and-
honestly, I know I'm cutting you off a little bit, but the more you explain it, the more I'm kind of coming around to your side, because I'm imagining the version of like we kill them off near the final episode of this season, and by this point Nurugai and Tenza are like Nurugai is clearly like gunning for him romantically, but we've had more time with that idea that they might get together, and so it's even more painful when they wrest it away from us at the last minute.
Yeah, like they only dangle it ever so slightly by having Nurugai, half teasing, half seeming like genuinely wants to marry him one day. And that one of his final images as like the future that he thought he could have in his potential flashed before his eyes as he was dying when he was with Nurugai's clan, and they were husband and wife sitting side by side. And that's a sad thing to see, but how much sadder would that have been had we had more time to be together?
It does feel a little bit like Nurugai said, "Hey Tenza, nice cock, bro,"
and then
Tenza
just
exploded.
Yeah. Yeah, we could have used more time, but the dedicating the entire episode to him definitely. If this had to be, the way the dice were rolled, this was the best way they could have done it.
You seem really enthusiastic about this backstory, so I'm gonna just let you take the stage for this one.
Yeah, so our boy Tenza, I find it really interesting how, past Tenza and present Tenza seem like and I don't mean this in a bad way, but normally it would sound like a bad way. They seem like two completely different characters, because I thought
It is. Oh,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
you were immediately going to say something?
I was just going to agree with you and say that was something that really got my noggin jogging, and I presume you will go more into this.
Yeah, because Present Tenza, what I thought was going to be like his gimmick was that he's the stupid one. He's the he don't know too much about the world, and always even has to explain to Nurugai like, hey, I'm an idiot. You have to put this into terms I can understand. And so I thought, okay, maybe for whatever reason he didn't have the best education and he's only just like a really good sword boy. But then we find out that the reason for this is that when he was younger, he grew up poor and unloved. He was a street rat. He would get himself into trouble until one day he was approached by the blind Master Shion, and he trained him from a young age to become a member of the Yamada Asaimon, and he took him under his wing. But as Tenza was getting on, he was like, "Man, you know what? This whole samurai shit, this ain't what I about. I don't want to live for this shit. I want to live my way. So fuck all this. Fuck all y'all. I'm out." And Shion's like, "All right, bro. Here's the deal. You can do whatever you want, but if you want to like leave, and like you want me to never even bring this up to you again, you just have to hit me once. If you in a sparring match, if you can strike me just once with your sword, then I will let you go, no questions asked." And naturally he can't do it because Shion's a master swordman and he's just some street rat. But then he gets a visit from Aizen, who all the way from Bleach, and he tells him that, hey, the reason Shion is taking such a liking to you is because he used to have a pupil, kind of just like you, who also wanted to leave the dojo, and he didn't do anything to stop him. He was like, "All right, man, you can do your own thing. If this ain't the life for you, I ain't gonna get in your way." But then one day, as he's about to perform an execution, as the Yamada Simon do, he realizes, "Oh shit, the criminal I'm about to execute is my former pupil who turned to a life of crime after he left. So, damn, this sucks, but I gotta do what I gotta do." So now, but what normally would happen in this kind of story is like, I'm never taking a pupil again. My days of teaching are over. Now instead, he took this as like a moment of being like, all right, I am now steadfast in my goal of assuring any future student that I take under my wing will not go down the same path that my former protege did. So that's why he's so more diligent and more of a mother bird to Tenza than his previous pupil.
Yeah, it was a really good backstory, and there's this one really characterizing line of dialogue that I wrote down where Shion tells Tenza, he says, well, okay, so the context to this is that Tenza has asked, "Yo, my brother in Christ, I am like this street rat. I am like I have no prospects. I'm just a complete loser. Why are you taking me in? Why me specifically?" And Shion, fuck, I exited out of my notes on accident, but he points to this cherry blossom tree that has no blossoms on it, but like, just these little buds. It's really thin and lean, not really all that pretty yet. But he's like, "Yo, bro, you're just like that lean cherry blossom tree with buds, and your potential is just waiting to blossom." And on the one hand, you could say, "Oh, bro, okay, bro, Shion, you little cheese ball, you're being a bit cheesy there." But I was like, "Nah, bro, that's so characterizing in a weird, it makes him feel like this, older. It really sells the sensei figure aspect of his character in a way."
Yeah, I especially love how at the end of the episode we get the one little end of the flashback where you would think that, oh, maybe he never did get that strike in, but no, he did get that one strike in while they were sparring long before they went to the island. And he was like, Shion was like, all right, our deal's a deal. You are now free to do what you want. And instead, Tenza is so moved by his compassion, he's like, "You know what? Stay and teach me, please, Master Shion. I want to be your student." And so he does.
Yeah, it's just a really solid backstory. And then
What
he dies, Rip Bozo, LMAO.
Yeah. The one part, the reason I said he felt like two totally different characters is that the whole idiot shtick isn't really brought up in the in his flashback.
I mean, yeah, not at all. He's like this sort of I wouldn't say cunning street rodent, but like more so just like I don't know, some like very very standoffish guy, I guess. But it's not like an unbelievable transition or anything like that. I can imagine this dude who's like, it doesn't really have. I mean, you even see him say in the backstory, bro, I have like no prospects. So he clearly hasn't always, thought the highest of himself in a way. So it makes sense for him to be like, yeah, I'm a little dumb, a little daft, you know. But it's also to me like, it makes me wonder like, how did he mellow out? How does he see his past self? Did he like think back on that version of himself and was maybe like, yo, that was all cringe. That was cringe, fringe, bringe, not cool in the slightest. I'm gonna be the opposite of that. And like completely mellowed out in that sense.
But what was cool in the largest sense? Tenza, after getting his shit pushed in by the Tensen, he had like several holes blown through his chest, so he's like, oh, I'm bleeding out. I ain't gonna survive this, man. But with his last gasp, he gets up and he just beats the shit out of the Tensen with his bare hands. Apparently so hard they just smashed the top half of their head in.
Yeah, his sacrifice is cool. Although I'm disappointed in you for saying that, like, when you said the biggest cool moment, you didn't immediately make a tit joke. I'm very sad.
Tit joke for what?
I mean, I don't know. I just heard the word big and thought, oh, okay.
Has it been too long since you felt the touch of a woman?
How did you know? No, that's not true. I have my wife here.
Oh god. All right. Well, with that, Shion takes Nurugai away. Tenza, rip Bozo, he's dead. I was a little disappointed that Nurugai's breakdown was not as dramatic and hard hitting as I would have liked. It was very weakly animated. Pounds of fists to the to Shion, be like, no, we have to go back. How could you leave him like this?
Okay, that fist pounding animation in particular lives rent free in my head for whatever reason, because it's like
really
bad. I guess we can
and
bring this to a larger
all.
yeah. So I guess we can bring this to a larger discussion about how the animation is holding up, how MAPPA has treated this adaptation, because it's controversial to say the least.
The artwork has been, for the most part, pretty consistently good.
It's very much a show where each individual frame looks like clean and nice and pristine and moi, chef's kiss. But it doesn't move more than it needs to, is how I'd put it. It has all the animation where it needs it to, for the most part. But if you're wanting that extra MAPPA polish that we're so used to, you won't find it here.
Honestly, I think the animation peaked in episode 9 where Gabimaru fight the Tensen.
I mean, like I said, it's where it needs to be. The fights do all look good. There's not any... I mean, I can't really remember many moments that looked outright bad. Even the Nurugai fist pounding animation just is kind of a wet fart of a visual moment, but it's not really abhorrent, I guess. But the fights all look good. It's just not like stuffed with polish in the same way that Jujutsu Kaisen or Chainsaw Man is.
Yeah, it's definitely MAPPA is biting off more than they can chew, and that statement is getting like more and more accurate every time they put out a new show.
What are you talking about, bro? Animating half the anime that come out every year is just normal. MAPPA can do it, bro.
Yeah,
My
they can
name
handle all
is
these different
MAPPA
high-profile
president, and I
studios at
can.
once.
We just need to animate more shows to meet the demand, bro. It's not that hard. Just a skill issue if you can't do it.
Yeah, putting out Vinland Saga Season 2 and Jigokuraku at the same season, it wasn't enough. I feel like they could have handled like 3 more shows.
what the hell, bro? You want to see your wife and kids? Skill issue, honestly. Just keep animating, bro.
Yeah, just keep animating till you're dead, or until this industry collapses in on itself.
Honestly, is it really that hard to animate as a corpse?
I
I mean, I don't think it is.
For all we know, MAPPA's probably mastered necromancy at the rate they're going. Actually, you know what? Maybe
yeah,
maybe they
MAPPA
did
has,
master it, and that's why Attack on Titan looks the way it does now.
Oh yeah, we got our top animator at MAPPA Industries. Fucking Abraham Lincoln.
Fucking
We
Beetlejuice.
fetched him from the. We got all the members of the Beatles together to help animate the lauded masterpiece Chainsaw Man. That's why it looks so good.
I know, Chainsaw Man looked way better than this show.
Oh yeah, well, infinitely. But that also, as I recall, MAPPA was the sole one that funded Chainsaw Man, and I do not think that was true with Hell's Paradise. So that probably explains why MAPPA, worked harder to make that show shine.
Yeah, it's a shame that this one didn't get the same tender love and care that Chainsaw Man did, but I guess, who am I to judge the inner workings of our Lord and Savior studio MAPPA? They're already lauded as like the goats of anime anyway.
Yeah. Even after reincarnating Shinzo Abe to help with the production of Hell's Paradise, they just couldn't make it pop as much as Chainsaw Man. It's a very sad day.
Yeah, if only there was a way to fix this kind of issue. If only there was like a logistical, structural way to just fix this whole thing that could very easily be implemented.
I mean, I'm not sure if I would say very easily. I mean, obviously, KyoAni has found the strategy, so, there you go, there's an example. But, it is a deep cultural problem, but I won't sit here and claim that, hey, it's so easy to fix when I don't live in Japan. I don't know how.
Maybe it's not easy. I'm
there.
just saying that there's a reason that KyoAni and Trigger are commonly cited whenever people are talking about, hey, what's your favorite anime studio? You're more likely to hear KyoAni and Trigger than you are to hear something like, I don't know, Leiden Films or Silver Link.
Yes, I just love my favorite anime studio, Silver Link. They just make the best shows consistently, man.
Alright, well, focusing back into Hell's Paradise specifically, we got the rival of the Tensen, and they've been fucking shit up.
So the big, if I had to describe it, this block of episodes puts the Tensen, I guess, in this at the very beginning, this position of almost like unstoppable reverence, and that has also been the case like in the prior block when we were just getting to know them, but here they are literally revered as gods by the prior society. And then all this like hype surrounding them is stripped away once they start fighting them in a very intentional manner. Like, this is not to put down the show, but it's a realization that I think pretty much all of the cast has while fighting them. And it's like this line that's repeated multiple times. These are not gods, they are monsters, and therefore they are killable.
And kill them they do. One of them. It takes like a huge combined effort to just be able to kill one of them. After he goes like demon monster mode.
They are driven to exhaustion and also end up sacrificing a life, as Senta does like his one of the few really useful things in the show by telling our boy Shion where to slice and dice his sword at the very last moment. And it's a very, I will say, the sense of triumph during that scene once they finally take on the big bad and defeat the Tensen. It really does hard sell the feeling of this combined effort required, and how almost like you need so much effort from every single person involved just to kill one of these things. How do we survive all? I think 7 of them total.
Yeah, there's 7 of them total. We were able to kill 1. We got 6 more to go, and yeah, we're we're starting to learn the power system and starting to manipulate it in a way so that way we can use it against them and use the power of our Tao to uh cut real good with our swords.
I mean, I guess the introduction of a power system was kind of inevitable in the sense that the Tensen are so powerful, and in order to set them up as overwhelmingly powerful, you have to have the main character's attacks just do almost nothing. Like, oh yeah, you cut my head off? Yeah, 5 seconds later it regenerates, you know? And so I guess in that sense, it was inevitable that something like Tao would be introduced in order to be like, here's the big weakness of the Tensen. I think it's around their stomach.
Yeah, it's like
you
their
hit
navel.
there. Yeah, navel is the word. And yeah, you hit right there because that's thought to be the core of Tao. I will say the power system is a lot better than Bleach's. So there you go.
What do you mean? You don't like the power system in Bleach where you just do believe in yourself and do your power better? That has it has no like rules. It's just whoever has the bigger power.
I mean, according to the one comment I saw on our last Bleach episode, there is a rhythm to the madness, I guess, like some kind of logic to it. I'm not sure if I entirely believe that comment yet, but we'll see. But
Well,
at the very least, in Jigokuraku, it is way more, uh, I guess, grounded in a sense of logic, where okay, you can very easily draw a parallel here between Ichigo is trying to master this art that's supposed to take dozens, if not an entire lifetime worth of years to master, and he just does it.
well,
In
what's
like
interesting
10 minutes.
is that they do get sort of a mini retcon of sorts as to why how what's so special about Tao if characters like Gabimaru and Yuzuriha have ninja magic. Well,
We'll see,
what do you
but
call that? It was Tao the whole time. They just didn't realize
yeah,
it.
and that's something that I think is like if you're going to retcon in a power system like this, which I mean it might have been intended from the beginning, I'm not entirely sure, but if you're going to essentially like put it in without any like real foreshadowing, this is the way to do it, because these people are incredibly powerful warriors, and we've already established that. And Gabimaru, with his ninpo, can survive all sorts of death methods and getting burned alive and whatnot. So it's not a stretch of the imagination to say, well, hey, bro, they knew what Tao, or I guess they didn't know it per se, but they had some conception of what it was, and some people, like Shion, explicitly use Tao in order to, let's say, navigate while blind. And
He's literally Daredevil.
I don't get that reference.
It's a Marvel thing.
Of course. But no, it makes sense in that regard. Of like, of course Gabimaru can just pick up Tao instantly, because all he had to do was get it unlocked for him. Although I guess the method of unlocking it is a bit vague at this point in time. So the girl, I'm
May.
very depressed that I forgot her name. May, you said?
Yeah.
May. Okay. She's so her whole thing is that she can like kind of talk but not really. She also ages up, so you know what that means. And she's like trying to communicate to Gabimaru, like, Tao, strong, weak. And she sort of like points at his hand and is like, yo, here's where Tao comes from, bro. And Gabimaru is like, yo, I get it now. I'm like, what happened?
I will say the application of Tao is far less interesting than the way it's the lore behind it. Because what I find interesting is that like with Tao, it ties into the the origins of Shinsenkyo, the Hell's Paradise, we find out later in the this half of the episodes that the island is actually revealed to be a place that was used for human experimentation, and the religious aspects were all just bullshit to lure people in, so that way they can do those human experiments. You know, it's a commentary
Which
on real life.
I love. I absolutely love that backstory of like. See, here's the thing: the show is like so intent on like ripping away all like majesty and happiness from the characters, even if there are occasional senses of victory, which we'll really get to in the final episode. But I'll let you continue.
Yeah, so with Tao, like it requires both an understanding of strength and weakness. It's very heavily inspired by you know, the idea of yin and yang, you know, like Chinese key with spelled like with like a QI. And in order to balance it, you need it to the understanding of what strong Tao is and what weak Tao is. You know, the positive and the negative, which is why May is always going like, oh, strong and weak, strong and weak.
It's all about the center way.
Yeah, that's also why, because similar to I think Buddhism or like the idea of meditation, all your key is located at your center, which is like, you know, the center of energy, center of the universe, whatnot. You know, I think that's cool. But what's even cooler, or at least funnier to someone like me, is that the Tensen are so powerful because they were either the ones who first figured out how to manipulate Tao, or were the ones who, you know, unlocked developed it first, or whatever, or however you want to look at it. So they brought all these people here on this to this island with, you know, with the religion of Shinsenkyo being their you know, the lure, so they could, you know, hey, here's a whole new religion, guys. You know, how do you start any good religion? You lure them in with, you know, the sweet promises of honeyed words, and but then, oh darn, we're actually going to turn into tree people and be converted into immortality elixir that lets us empower our Tao and regenerative powers and whatnot.
Oh yeah, I remember the time when you know, at my local church, everyone just started turning into trees. Kind of a cool moment, IMO.
But the hilarious thing is that in order to the Tensen were like, damn, you know, this Tao thing's pretty cool and all, but what if there were a way to, you know, make it even stronger and circulate it between us, so that way, you know, it stacks onto itself and it's even stronger. And then they figured out, I got it. Let's fuck. And fucking that's why I stood up and clapped, because this show stood up and said sex is empowering, because the Tensen circulate and empower themselves through Tao by fucking, which is based.
Best power system in anime history.
And, you know, and it also is part of the reason why they can shift between male and female forms, not because, you know, they're these immortal gods, but because the circulation of Tao goes between two energies. I forget which one goes to which, but I think men had the yin and women had the yang. And so this leads us back to Mei, who, even though she is of Tensen-esque origin, she was like sort of like a genetic freak of accident that she only possesses the woman key, whereas the Tensen have both. So because of this, she is designated to breed with those only with man key. And oh, hello, Mr. Chris Hansen. Well, what brings you by this neck of the woods?
Yeah, and the moment where Gabimaru gets like so mad for her sake is a very, very captivating.
He enters his kill all pedophiles arc, making him even more based.
Yeah, because, you know, the entire show up to this point is kind of like Gabimaru is this sort of aloof guy who's slowly discovering his emotions, and in that moment he like monologues to himself, yo, why am I feeling this way? I could just not care, bro. I could just pass her over and avoid this conflict. But once he heard that, he got that monster in him.
Yeah, because well, if you don't got the both key, if you don't got both the yin and the yang, you just you ain't gonna cut it in this world on Hell's Paradise. This is the non-binary propaganda at work. Cisgenders are obsolete, and we are getting phased out. So we gotta adapt. We gotta get with the times.
I try quoting that one out of context.
I'm trying to remember if there's anything else related to TAO.
I mean, I guess its application is a bit vague at this point in time. You can feel the energy of attacks coming, and you can be like, oh, it sort of like predicts the future in a sense. Like predict. It's based off of.
It's
intention.
very basic shonen shit. Like I am a little sad that as cool as like the mechanics behind TAO is, the application is very basic shonen mechanics. It's you can use TAO to sense the presence of others. You can sense where they're coming from, even if like one of your normal senses are impaired. Kind of like Shion, who is blind, but he can like hear and smell and like just sense where you are. And you can use it. You can enshroud your blade in TAO to strengthen your attacks. You can focus it to a point. It's all like it happens in Dragon Ball. It happens in Naruto. It's very basic shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about all I have to say about TAO.
And I guess Nurugai just has the ability to stimulate a person's TAO by hugging them.
That is adorable. That is absolutely adorable.
Yeah, she's gonna be the healer of the team by hugging
actually,
him.
You just reminded me of something else about TAO. Different people's TAO interact with other people's in different ways, which is why when Nurugai hugs, I think it's Yuzuriha, nothing happens. But when she hugs Sagiri gets, she feels more energized and is like, yo, this is based.
now we're entering Hunter x Hunter Nen territory.
I didn't get that far in Hunter x Hunter.
You didn't get to the part where it gets complicated. And then Nen is notoriously complex for a shonen power system.
Yeah, so I assume that'll be expanded upon more. All we know is that Sagiri, her TAO is mucho very effective, a la Pokemon, against the Tensen that they end up killing.
Yeah, how very convenient.
I mean, in a sense, like you say, it's convenient, but in a sense, it also is because there's no reason to, or I guess nothing suggesting that Sagiri's TAO is strong against all the Tensen, and so knowing that this is one that she's super powerful against. Well, okay, what happens when her TAO is weak against the Tensen? What happens when everyone's weak against the Tensen? Is that even an encounter you can survive? So in that sense, I actually do find it a little. It gets my noggin jogging. It's like, okay, you can go somewhere with it.
I suppose the last instance of TAO that we could talk about that's different, and I guess we can also use the segue into talking about the return of the goats, Chobe and Toma, is that Chobe, he gets access to TAO, but unlike everyone else, it has a more like physiological effect on his body.
Yeah, so it's implied that he found something in that pit, probably ate Flowey from Undertale and got the vines on him.
He got the friendliness pellets,
and he just he sort of like automatically gets TAO now, and he's like, well, it's not automatic, but over the course of the fight, he goes from getting owned to owning, because he's like very quickly realizing what TAO is like, and he can see the TAO now. He's like, yo, this stuff is that TAO? Okay, I'll just use it to beat your head in. But every time he gets hit, oh god, I remember this one shot of hold on. Is that during the Chobe and Toma fight? I'm trying to remember because I wrote it down when it happened. That might have been another fight. But anyway, but like he gets a vine scar on his neck and somewhere else, I forgot. But it seems that those scars, they like whenever he gets hit there and it's hit that would do like fatal damage or whatever, the vines protect him. But at what cost?
Yeah, like everyone else we've seen so far, they can manipulate Tao, and the worst it does to them is either like exhaust them past the point of just like, oh, I'm really tired now. Oh, it's like, oh no, my mortal body cannot keep up with the energy I am outputting, and I am bleeding profusely. And at worst, you could do something like, I don't know, I'm throwing something out there, make you lose your memories. But for in Chobe's instance, he gets those vine markings on his body, and from Toma's perspective, there's one shot where like it looks like Chobe is turning into something of like a weird monster man, but it seems like for the time being, Chobe's got like a handle on things. So something happened to him in that pit, which has made him, maybe he's part Tensen now. Maybe he's like got special snowflake Tao, or the Tao is taking a hold of his body. Definitely going to be explored in season 2, probably.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a metaphor for his character. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a commentary on living completely selfishly.
Yeah,
only one way to find out.
Speaking of, how fucking baller of a move was it when young Chobe in that flashback was like tried to approach the bandits by being like, "Oh, you really think we're gonna take you in, you little brats who had cushy upbringings? We can tell you lived the good life before coming here. We'll teach you how to be real bandits." And then Chobe, like when they try to make a move on Toma, he willingly cuts out his own right eye, being like, "Hey, you still think we can't be like you?" He just forsakes his whole upbringing and like permanently disfigures himself for his brother. Bad fucking ass.
It was a cool moment, and the best part is there was literally no reason for him to do that. He was just like, you know what, these people are talking smack. I'm gonna like show these people that I am powerful enough to take them on. That they better not mess with us.
Yeah, there's before we I know we're like just at the end of this topic, but there's no other place I can bring it up while we're still tangentially talking about the Tensen through Tao. There is one line that I have to quote. One of them just like, "Oh, you don't like being in your female form? I love it. Just looking at women's bodies makes you want to touch them, you know? How could she say something so controversial yet so brave?"
Very cool, very cool. What's the next topic we want to go on?
I guess the last topic we can touch on is just like the final couple episodes with Gabimaru meeting up with Tamiya and Fuchi, and then the whole big battle with Sagiri, Senta, Yuzuriha, and Shion against Jujun.
Yeah, so we got the broad strokes of it, but something we haven't mentioned yet is that Gabimaru goes off on his own, away from the rest of the pack, because he's used to operating alone, used to being detached from everyone. And for a while, there's like 4 main groups, Gabimaru and then the other 3 that have already been established. And then Gabimaru meets up with forget both
Tamiya. Tamiya and
Tamiya?
Fuchi.
Okay. Yeah, and he meets up with them, they form a group, and then or I guess it would be 5 groups, miscounting here. But anyway, Yuzuriha and Sagiri meet up with Nurugai and Shion, and they form a group. So we're like also lowering the amount of perspectives we're following, which we're presumably eventually going to only follow one, and I also assume that will be a very lonely feeling when it happens. Which, okay, that just also reminded me. this show has an oddly lonely feeling to it at times. And I'm not even sure if the show is trying for it, but I mean, I imagine by
define
the end,
lonely, because we are definitely always surrounded by people. I don't think there's a single, aside from when
it's not in the
Gabimaru
sense of
hits.
one person being isolated or even two people being isolated, a la Girls' Last Tour, where there's no one else in sight. But it's this idea of we're completely not, we can't get back to society. There's no way anyone is going to help us. I mean, people are coming in, but we have no control over when they come. And they're probably not going to be. I mean, we don't even know if they're going to be.
By the
side.
very end of the season, we do see that the shogunate is planning to send more criminals and more Yamada Saimon to Shinsenkyo, and only time will tell how that shakes out.
Yeah, but it's like this idea of we're all stuck on this island, and all we have is each other. But the loneliness comes from like the more time we spend here, the less people there are. There's sort of this inevitability, I guess. This like feeling in your gut of dread is how I would put it.
Yeah, I suppose I can understand that with it's a feeling of dread and hopelessness, like, oh god, how the hell are we gonna get out of this island? All the currents, lead back to the island. There's no current leading out. No, the only people who know that we're here are the shogunate, who are not going to send, search parties. They're just gonna send like the next wave of people after us to get the elixir of life, which isn't even like really the true elixir of life. It's just it's an elixir called Ton that turns ordinary people into trees, and is mainly useful for the Tensen to drink to maintain their godly powers.
Yeah. The more we describe the show, the more I'm realizing just how brutal the show is at like being like, hey, here's all these hopes and dreams, let's crush them one by one.
Yeah, when Jujun just like decapitates Hoko, and at first he's like, don't worry about it. He, even as a tree person, he's that won't kill him. That's just gonna speed up his process to lose his like identity and sense of self, and he will just become motionless for the rest of time, praying towards the center of the island and whatnot. Oh, BT dubs before you die. All that prayer stuff and gods and worship, we made it up. It was all a ploy so we could turn you into immortality juice and drink you.
That was a brutal moment. Let me tell you.
Yeah, the story of Hell's Paradise and the lore behind it is very juicy and very fun.
Yeah, I'm very invested in, like, in the first podcast I was talking about, I'm so invested in like the locale and the horror aspects, or I guess you could call it horror. I would call it a sort of horror, even if it's not as a horror anime per se.
It's not as like what's the term I'm looking for Made in Abyss, where it's like not dreary, but very like ominous. It's the kind of scary where I suppose psychological. Yeah, it's like a psychological horror where it's not like, oh, there is a big scary monster thing who's gonna do big scary monster things to us. It's more of the various concepts of like, oh, hey, here's a factory that turns you into like, that strips you of like all of your organs and implies that you are still conscious, but you are stuffed into this little like briefcase cartridge to empower a guy from going all loopy from going up against the abyss. That kind of like dark demented shit.
I mean, even Hell's Paradise, though, as it goes on, becomes more psychological in a sense. I would,
it doesn't reach Made in Abyss levels, but it is,
well, see,
skirting that line.
I'm not even sure if I would say Made in Abyss is any more or less psychological than Hell's Paradise, so much as Made in Abyss is very, I guess, high concept with its horror in a way that Jigokuraku so far is not, probably.
I mean, granted, I would not want to end up with the fates that a lot of these characters end up with in either show. But I just think of all the horrible fucked up shit that can happen to you in Made in Abyss, even outside of just dying.
Bro,
to,
man, I just want to
monsters.
become Groot #2 and get decapitated. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like becoming Groot and just becoming motionless forever seems like a better way to go out than the entirety of season 2 of Made in Abyss. Like honestly.
Yes, I just love to be turned into a living cartridge. I guess this show does not top
have
that
my sense of self
concept.
destroyed and have my value taken away, and also eat babies, but
but anyway, there are a few small things that I am not too fond of in the final couple episodes. There's so Sagiri and Yuzuriha, take on the Tensen, and they think they've won because Sagiri is just it's like a water type versus a fire type. The Pokemon matchup is just too much for him. So they've killed the Tensen, and Yuzuriha's like, or one of them's like, yeah, are we sure he's dead? Yeah, he's dead. He ain't moving. And I'm just there in my head like, check his fucking pulse. Check it now. Do it now.
To be fair, he might
you
not
aren't
have,
leaving the corpse. You are checking his
they
pulse.
They might not
right
have
now,
a pulse
right?
in the traditional sense, but
listen.
Anyone with a
problem
droplet
with
of media literacy knows that motherfucker ain't
Yeah.
dead.
I mean, here, my notes from this moment are all caps. Are you sure he's dead? Check his pulse. He ain't dead. There ain't no way. But here's my problem with the scene. You don't even have to have the Tensen have a pulse. You could just be like, oh, the Tensen doesn't have a pulse, bro. Okay, but the characters can still check it. It feels like that'd come to anyone's mind first thing. Just check his pulse. Just do that one thing that everyone ever who is breathing knows is traditionally a way to check if a human being is alive. Just do that one thing. You can still have the fake out death where the Tensen haha, I don't even have a pulse, bro. I mean, it doesn't even matter.
In fact, I am a flower monster.
I'd be okay with that. But it's just check the pulse. It was a bit of a frustrating moment.
Well, a lot of good that pulse checking's gonna do when we find out that the Tensen, in desperation mode, have a final form, a JRPG final boss second phase.
Yeah, I love the final phases of the Tensen. We've seen 2 so far, and they are just this incomprehensible mess of vines and half faces, and he gains 2 separate bodies in this form, and they're attached to a bunch of vines. It just becomes biblical angel level incomprehensibleness.
Yeah, accurate biblical angel.
Yeah. This is a Bible accurate flower right here.
I mean, religion is a key theme of the show, so
yeah, it does make sense. Does track. The incomprehensibleness, I hope that word is the correct one. Incomprehensibility, whatever.
Probably.
Yeah. That's what makes really sells the design as threatening, and it fits with the idea of the Tensen as something you were never really supposed to understand in a way. Of these gods who have, almost subjugated this society to misunderstand them, and who have built this such an air of reverence around them and their elixir of life. They have ensured that everyone just thinks we're something we're not, thinks we're gods when we're just monsters, and for their final form to be incredibly difficult to make out any sense of is very, very fitting. I like it.
Yeah, I guess the last thing to touch on, because we pretty much touched on the big fight at the end, is Yuzuriha, along with Sagiri and Shion and Nurugai. They enter what was it, Horai, whatever it was called, this little palace area with
Actually, right before you get to that, I have one very small nitpick, and then you can continue. In episode 13, did you notice the like 60 FPS AI interpolated Sagiri shot of Sagiri opening her mouth in shock?
I did not.
You didn't. Okay.
Maybe,
Well,
maybe if I saw it again, maybe
somewhere
I'd be like, hey,
it's at,
wait a minute.
I think okay, it's 039 of episode 13. And it was so random. I replayed the shot like 5 times because I was just in awe at how, like, so many questions went through my mind. Because it looks terrible. It looks absolutely abysmal. It's way too smooth compared to the rest of the show. It looks like, it seriously looks like, not quite like the 60 FPS anime openings, because those weren't meant to be AI interpolated, which means that they're dealing with a worse source that distorts constantly.
You said 039?
Yeah, 039. This one doesn't distort constantly. You know, they might have cleaned it up, but it's very clearly way too smooth. Like, way smoother than it should be.
And in the final episode 13?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw it now.
Okay. I think it looks terrible. Like, completely out of place and jarring.
I wouldn't call it terrible. It's just like your typical slow motion shot.
That's not a typical slow motion shot.
I don't know. I feel like to drag the whole show for that one shot, it's a little,
I'm not gonna.
little
I mean, it didn't lower my score of it, but I felt like I might as well.
Yeah, it's going from a 9 to a
it.
6. Fuck this show.
Yeah,
it looks like ass MAPPA dropped the ball once again.
All right. Listen, I need to get this out of the way because it's not like everything I say in a podcast is going to be. This was really a damning critique of the show. This completely ruined it for me. No, I just make notes about what I make a note of and then say them on a podcast. It's not necessarily that, oh, this one shot looking bad ruins the entire show. The entire anime is ruined because of this one thing. That's why I'm mentioning it in the podcast. I mentioned them in the podcast because I noticed them. It's just thought dumping.
The thing with Yuzuriha that's now putting planted a seed of doubt within Sagiri is the Yuzuriha is like, hey, something don't quite add up when it comes to this whole Gabimaru and wife thing. And also the elixir of life. Like, how how could it be real? And Gabimaru's like, hey, wait, no, it's real. I saw my village chief, get fucked up by all these weapons and he didn't die, so that must be proof of some kind of immortality elixir. And Yuzuriha is like, we're ninjas. We have illusion powers. What, like, that was probably just done to instill within the youngsters of the ninjas, like, hey, there's no point in trying to, like, wrest control away from us or try to fight back against us because we are immortal. There is nothing you can do to stop us. Your lives are essentially in our control forever.
Yeah, he just gaslight girl boss to them, bro.
Yeah, the ultimate gaslighting. And then Yuzuriha's like, and yeah, about this whole wife thing. Have you ever seen his wife before? Like, do you know his wife's name? Could you don't think maybe he was gaslit into thinking he had a wife at all, and it wasn't just like a ploy from his village ninja elders to get him to believe in order to send him on missions where fear ain't just the only motivating factor. It's also the drive to be like, oh, if I survive this, I will see my wife again, which has been the driving force for Gabimaru this entire season.
I am deeply curious to know what you think of this. This has been the moment I've been waiting for in this podcast, because one of the things you cited as one of your favorite aspects of Gabimaru's character is that he isn't all aloof. He loves his wife, bro. He's just motivated by his wife. How do you feel knowing that the prime motivator, one of the things that made you like Gabimaru, that motivates his entire being, is actually a lie?
We don't know if it's a lie for sure. It's just a guess by
listen,
Yuzuriha.
Neon, they. I'm using my media literacy goggles. There is like a very low % chance that his wife is real.
Well, now hold on. How could he have such a clear identity of seeing her? Like, what about all the times like in flashbacks where he said, "Are we truly led to believe a false narrator?"
I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be a false narrator because I mean, Gabimaru thinks he's telling the truth.
And like, why would that lead him away from like the village? Why would the ninjas
See, that question goes into it. Like, I was thinking that too, and I know the contradiction is supposed to be there. I mean, it could be explained away. There could be an explanation.
I know. I'm gonna guess that his wife is real, and maybe this is a bit of a red herring to get us to think like, hey, wouldn't it be fucked up if his whole like quest was for naught and there was no wife to begin with?
Okay, well, I'm on the side of I think his wife is fake, but also that I really hope that's the case because that's such an interesting idea to me.
Well, what I find interesting is that regardless of the case, whether his wife is real or not, what we do know for a fact is that Gabimaru has reverted back to his episode 1 self. He has had his character development
he
reset.
now has good old dementia, needs that outs.org support because he don't remember nothing. He used a bit too much TAO, got a bit too drunk on the Wednesday, and just completely blacked out, does not know what happens to him anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't recognize Mei or Tamiya or Fuchi. It's gonna be sad when he inevitably reunites with Sagiri and doesn't recognize her. And that's gonna break Sagiri's heart because they're BFFs.
See, those final scenes are like the most interested I've been in the show this entire time.
I love how
honestly.
Shion is like, could it be that you might have romantic feelings for Gabimaru? And Sagiri immediately shuts him down, like, nope, not at all.
But yeah, like, I find these concepts so interesting of like, yeah, your entire life is a lie, bro. Your wife ain't even real. That's why I hope his wife is fake, because that seems like such an interesting place for the story to go that you literally could not expect, considering like the earlier episodes showing that as like his prime motivation. I want to know what he feels when he realizes that his wife is a lie. You know, that's something I am interested in seeing explored in the show. So like, I know you're on the train of her still being real. I hope it's the opposite, honestly, because that seems really, really cool.
Why would you want the worst for best boy Gabimaru?
Sometimes I want the worst for my favorite characters, because it means that the story is going to get way more interesting.
How could you possibly want the worst for a character with 10 out of 10 lines like, even if I die, I'll make it back alive?
Well, you see, I have this thing called psychopathy.
You mean psychosis?
No, not psychosis. Psychosis and psychopathy are different things.
Ah, well.
I mean, I also have psychosis, but that's
another
story for another day. Yeah.
And with that, we got nothing to do but to wait until season 2, which is confirmed.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see where the story goes.
Yeah, we've got the groups are separated still. Chobe and Toma are still on the loose, and they got their own shiz going on with the TAO. We got the new Yamada, Simon, and criminals supposedly on their way. Apparently, there's still that whole thing about Iwagakure might be sending their own ninjas to the island. So we'll see what happens with that, if anything.
And I guess we can go on to closing thoughts. I would give this show an 8 out of 10.
I agree. This is a very strong 8 out of 10 type show. Would have given it a higher score, but I feel like the animation wasn't quite up to snuff for the kind of story I wanted to tell. I feel like MAPPA didn't bring enough of their A game to some of the more mundane scenes, and even some of the action. It's only well animated, like entertainingly well animated some of the time, and not, but sadly not all of the time. The story and characters are doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, and I do maintain, in my opinion, that the show is a little too kill happy, with and robs the narrative of potentially heart wrenching moments, like how Tenza's death could have been saved for a little later to really give us the kind of gut punch of the dick that we deserve as an audience.
If I were to sort of like quote all the things that would make this show a 9 for me, you need better animation. So Mappa, I know this is going to make you just so furious. Mr. President Mappa Man, I forgot your name. I know you're going to be like punching air, punching the walls upon hearing this. Just like spend like a few months more on the show, maybe let the animators see their kids, you know. That'd be pretty cool. Maybe then the show would look better. And then you can get it even closer to a 9. But what I really want this show to do is delve into like some, you know, even weirder concepts, like the final episode sort of suggests that it will. These very psychological and interesting ideas of horror. And put each of the characters through stuff like that, make them really start thinking, get their brains work, make the hamster wheels in each of their heads, just have the hamsters start running for their life as if there's a monster behind them, and get, you know, Gabimaru, start gaslighting Gabimaru. There we go. Just do that.
I feel like there's gonna be a lot of Gabimaru gaslighting in season 2.
I am very excited for it, and you know, that's what makes me like the most excited I've been for Jigokuraku is after the final episode. I am utterly hyped for when season 2 begins, and we will be there with another podcast.
Yeah, with any luck, it'll be it'll get the time it needs in the oven. We'll probably be back here. I don't know. What do you think? A year from now? A year and change?
Well, I deeply hope not, because that would probably give us the same level of animation as we had for this season.
Well, you know, with so many projects that they're working on, One Punch Man, you know that they got Chainsaw Man season 2 cooking, even though there hasn't been any official announcement. There's no way that they're not cooking on that.
Nah, season 1 of Chainsaw Man just bombed so hard, and everyone hated the director so much.
We have to remake
the entire project. They have to remake season 1 with. Oh god, what's like an infamously bad anime director? Is there one of those? Here, girl, I like forgot her glass. Yeah. Director Katsumasa Yokomine. Yeah, we're gonna get his vision of it. It's gonna be like a 3D camera constantly, but instead of working,
get the X-Arm guys.
Who's the X-Arm guy? I need to look this up.
I don't know, get the whole fucking studio. Who cares?
Yeah, make it CG. I mean, you know, hey, there's a lot of complex character designs and movement. Obviously, we need the GOAT, Yoshikatsu Kimura. We need him. And he's the savior of the anime industry, frankly. He will save Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, if you want to save anime podcasts, then you know what to do, viewers. Go ahead and hit the like button. Head on down to the comments. Let us know what anime we should talk about on Castaway Anime. What'd you think of the episode? What do you think of Hell's Paradise? You excited for season 2? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more episodes of the podcast and other things as well. That'll do her for this episode of the Castaway Anime Podcast. I'm Neon Manta.
And I'm 4-dimensional pizza crust.
I think it might be
just
time
rolled off the tongue.
I think the time is coming to put this bit to bed. And you'll see us next time.
See ya in hell.